Before there was Nico Harrison, there was Donnie Nelson, the ex-Dallas Mavericks GM that helped bring their only championship to the team. But he wasn't just a GM. He was a true visionary. Donnie Nelson helped change the way that teams recruited, mainly in the international way, because Donnie Nelson was a true pioneer for bringing international talent into the NBA. Let me explain. Nowadays, when you think of Luka, you think of Nico Harrison. That's something for its own video. But the reason why Luka even came to the Dallas Mavericks organization is because of Donnie. I personally know the stories and intricacies of Donnie Nelson's impact because I spoke to one of my most famous followers on social media, Mark Cuban. Shout out to Mark if you're watching this. Appreciate you for everything you've done. Just to be fully transparent, I asked him, how was the international recruiting process for Mavs, because they're clearly a class of their own. And he told me that it was all because of Donnie. Donnie was the one that had the foresight to say, let's go and see who's the next big thing in Europe. And he did it twice. And he built franchises around these international guys. In this video, I'm going to go over all of the recruits that he brought over to the NBA. Luka Doncic and Dirk Nowitzki are two of the best examples, but he brought a lot of international guys over to the Mavericks organization. He had a global mindset for the game. And after his successes, the league followed. Donnie wasn't just your average front office guy. He's the son of legendary coach Don Nelson. And Donnie made his name in the front office by obviously recruiting and looking at basketball as a global entity. In 1998, he recruited a young German stretch four forward prospect in Dirk Nowitzki. That's arguably a move that shaped the Dallas Mavs organization for the next 10 years. That's a move that's probably one of the most legendary pieces in that organization. And in 1998, he pretty much changed the tone for the whole team because Dirk had a career that spanned almost 20 years. At that time, while the rest of the league was focused on AAU because guys were still coming from high school, college, Blue Bloods, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, he had the foresight to think outside the box and say, I like this crop of guys here because obviously in 1996, Kobe, Iverson, they were just drafted from the States, high school and Blue Bloods. But maybe Jerry and the Chicago Bulls in the early 1990s were onto something when they brought over Tony Kukoc. Kukoc was one of the first guys to come from overseas, especially in Europe, and make a big impact. Mainly because he was on the team that had the most clout. Everybody was worried about the Chicago Bulls back then. So he was also in the right place, right time, and that magnifying glass was put on him and his international background. So while everybody's recruiting here, he was watching high schoolers in random gyms in Slovenia and Germany and China, Turkey, Spain, just to get the recruiting edge. Just to give you guys the full context, let's go through the list of players that he actually is responsible for bringing over. Starting with Dirk, obviously he's a franchise legend. He's a Hall of Famer, one of the most impactful European players ever. 1998 draft, it was actually a pick that was traded in from Milwaukee. He fell in love with Dirk's game after coaching a young Nowitzki during the 1998 Nike Hoop Summit. They throw these international events for young prospects, Adidas Nations, Nike Hoop Summit, where the top talent from each country, they compete with the Americans, they compete with other European and African and South American nations. Donnie Nelson had the foresight to coach one of these hoop summits. In 1999, with the second round pick, Wang Zizi out of China was selected by the Mavs. He's the first Chinese player to ever play in the NBA. He was scouted after Donnie Nelson watched him play in Russia in 1993. This move wasn't about stardom. It was about taking building blocks, and really, he opened the eyes to a lot of people that you don't necessarily have to bring an overseas guy in to be the star, to be the man, right? It doesn't have to be that. He can also just come in and be a piece. They didn't expect ZZ to be what Yao Ming was, but he can give minutes. Then we fast forward to the 2000s. Eduardo Najera out of Mexico. In 2000, he was a second round pick. He became a steady contributor around 2004, 2005 season. He also never really panned out to be the main man, like what we know Luka and Dirk to be. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have a place in the NBA. Then fast forward to 2007, Yi Jinlian out of China again. 2006, undrafted free agent JJ Barea signs, and he was a key contributor to the 2011 NBA Finals championship run. JJ Barea. Nobody remembers this guy. He was a Puerto Rican nationalist. In 2013, Donnie actually pushed to draft Giannis Antetokounmpo. We all know how Giannis ended up. Back in the 2013 draft, he wasn't the man yet. He was just an unknown commodity who had raw skills. He had the size, he had the length. He didn't really shoot it. He was in the second division of Greece, not even the top division. He pushed for Giannis to get drafted in 2013, only to be denied by Mavs ownership. In 2015, Donnie Nelson recruited Salah Mehri. He was Tanzanian and he played for Real Madrid. Only the people in Spain and the EuroLeague knew of this young kid that was getting EuroLeague minutes since he was 16 years old. I think that you draft the best player on that team or the best prospect on that team that's eligible to be drafted just to keep that pipeline between you and Real Madrid going. So when we do draft Luka, if we're ever in position, because remember, Luka wasn't a #1 pick. He wasn't a consensus. Nobody knew about Luka outside of the Europeans. I knew about Luka 2016, 2017, 2018. That's my stint in Spain. I remember hearing the buzz about the young Slovenian kid killing in Spain, right? And I told everybody, man, he ain't nothing, bro. You know what I'm saying? I saw him. He wasn't athletic. At the time, I had the American mentality. I'm like, yo, he going to come to the league and he not going to fit in because he can't guard anybody. Boy, was I wrong. Donnie had the foresight. He picked up Luka's teammate, and I'm sure that when they did draft Luka, that was the main conversation starter, right? It's an icebreaker. It's like, hey, you're coming in. We already have one of your teammates from last year. So now you can feel a little bit extra special on the roster because we got one of your guys. So in 2015, Salah was actually a free agent. He just had a breakout season in the ACB, which is the Spanish domestic league, one of the top domestic leagues in the world with Real Madrid. And like I said, the Mavs kind of give him that, all right, you come with us now and we're going to make a move on your boy. And in 2018, they end up drafting him, #3 overall. They ended up trading up for him. If you guys remember, in that swap between Trae Young and Luka Doncic. So what was it that set him apart? He valued basketball IQ and fundamentals over flash and all the pizzazz that we know American hoopers to have. He scouted for fit and feel, not just athleticism. What jumps off the page, how long are your arms, how high do you jump, can you dunk on somebody? And he was way ahead of positionless basketball, way before it was a buzzword in the NBA. He trusted systems like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Partizan, FS, CSKA. You might not know these teams, but they're programs with structure overseas. Coaching, real pressure. That's where he found guys who could step in and play right now. While other GMs were chasing one-and-dones with upside, Donnie was finding professionals at age 18, 15, 16. You can't talk about Luka Doncic without talking about Donnie Nelson because he made the bold move to trade for Luka on draft night while other teams passed. And it wasn't a fluke. There was a culmination of 20 years of believing in international basketball. From Dirk to Luka, Donnie helped globalize the Dallas Mavericks and the NBA. And now you look around the NBA, Jokic is MVP, Giannis was MVP, Luka was at an MVP level, Wemby is next up. Donnie wasn't just a GM, he was early. If more teams followed the Donnie Nelson blueprint 20 years ago, the NBA might be more international based now than it already is. And at the moment, it's 1/3 international. And if you're an overseas hooper, you owe a little something to Donnie because he gave the spotlight to a lot of the guys that may have been overlooked. This is Chip Overseas, man. So if you're passionate about the overseas game, you got the overseas dream, or you just love international hoops because you're a fan of basketball, hit that sub button. You got more videos like this coming every week. Peace.